Welcome back to Unspoken Men Truths, the channel that names the patterns most people sense but never have the language for. When things escalate, most people react, voices rise, emotions spill, and the room fills with noise. But there is a particular kind of man who does the opposite. He goes cold and cate. And the silence he produces is not the absence of something. This behavior is a deliberate creation of a power vacuum. When one person in a high-stakes interaction withdraws all verbal response, the other person's nervous system registers it as a threat. The brain, wired for social connection since birth, interprets social silence from a known person as danger. Social rejection and physical pain activate the same regions of the brain, the anterior cingulate cortex and the anterior insula. The man using silence in these moments understands this on an instinctive level. He has discovered that he does not need to raise his voice to make someone feel small. He just needs to disappear behind his own eyes. There is a difference between a man who needs genuine space to process and a man who uses withdrawal as a weapon. Stonewalling, one of the 4 communication behaviors most predictive of relationship breakdown, alongside criticism, contempt, and defensiveness. The stone wall is identifiable by the absence of words and the nonverbal theater that accompanies it. The blank stare held a beat too long. The slow turn and exit from the room at the peak of tension. The read receipt that sits unanswered for hours. These gestures are not neutral, they are signals of dominance. They shift the entire focus of the confrontation away from the original issue and onto the receiver's desperate attempt to restore connection. The problem being discussed vanishes. The only thing left is the anxiety of the person trying to get back in. The architecture of this behavior rarely appears from nowhere. Attachment theory maps a clear line between avoidant attachment styles formed in early childhood and the adult tendency to weaponize emotional withdrawal. The child who learned that vulnerability led to punishment or abandonment grows into the adult who treats silence as armor. In more extreme presentations, this behavior overlaps with narcissistic traits, specifically the dynamic researchers describe as holding the floor, by refusing to engage, which paralyzes the conversation entirely and forces the other person into a one-sided emotional labor spiral. The digital age has handed these patterns an upgraded toolkit. Ghosting, left on read, and the calculated delay of a response are not modern inventions, they are ancient dominance tactics wearing new technology. What makes weaponized silence so corrosive over time is the intermittent reinforcement trap it creates. Unpredictable reward schedules produce the most compulsive response patterns in both animals and humans. When silence is broken, when the man finally speaks, finally softens, the relief the other person feels is disproportionate to the moment. That relief becomes addictive. The silence trains the receiver to treat normal communication as a reward rather than a baseline. Over extended exposure, this erodes self-esteem at a structural level. Prolonged social exclusion drives sustained elevations in cortisol, the primary stress hormone, increasing the risk of anxiety disorders, disrupted sleep, and immune suppression. The weapon is quiet, but the damage is anything but. Recognizing this pattern is the first move, and the distinction is not complicated once the framework is in place. Ask one question. Is this person withdrawing to regulate their own emotional state, or are they withdrawing to regulate yours? The answer determines everything. If it is the latter, the single most effective counter-strategy is to stop chasing. The Gray Rock method, a technique developed within trauma-informed therapy circles, instructs targets of emotional manipulation to become as unrewarding as possible to engage with. Neutral tone. Minimal emotional reaction. No pursuit. The silent treatment derives its power entirely from the anxiety it generates in the receiver. Reclaiming the narrative in these situations is not a dramatic confrontation. It is the quiet decision to stop auditioning for a connection that is being used as leverage against you. Subscribe to Unspoken Men Truth.